There's something I've noticed about many relationships. Most couples don't suddenly fall apart overnight. There's usually no dramatic moment where love completely disappears. What often happens instead is much quieter than that. Two people can continue living in the same house, raising children together, paying bills together, even showing up at family gatherings together, and still slowly begin drifting emotionally apart without fully realizing it. Not because they stop loving each other, but somewhere along the way, they slowly stop bringing themselves to each other. And if that feels familiar in any way, stay with me, because I want to leave you with a few small reflections that may help you notice the quiet distance that sometimes grows inside of ordinary relationships. Hello and welcome back. I'm Ashford. Let me tell you about a couple I'll call Daniel and Rebecca. They've been married for a few years now. They both work hard and they're raising a young family. Life is busy like many modern families. And honestly, from the outside, nothing about their marriage looks unhealthy. There's no major scandal, no explosive conflict or constant fighting. In many ways, they actually function quite well together. But one evening, something very ordinary happened. Rebecca was trying to tell Daniel about something that had happened during the day. Not a major issue, just one of those small moments where you're not really looking for a solution, but you just want to feel heard. And while she was speaking, Daniel nodded a few times, responded here and there, but mentally, he was somewhere else entirely. Part of him was thinking about work. Another part of him was scrolling through his phone. And eventually, Rebecca just stopped speaking halfway through the conversation. Now, she wasn't angry or dramatic. She simply realized she wasn't really being met in that moment. And the difficult thing about moments like this is that they rarely feel serious at the time. But over time, they begin accumulating quietly. And I think this is where something important begins to reveal itself. Many relationships do not become distant because love suddenly disappears. They become distant because presence slowly disappears. The relationship becomes functional, efficient, and logistical. You discuss everything under the sun. You discuss schedules, children, bills, plans, and responsibilities. But little by little, the emotional life of the relationship begins to starve quietly underneath all that efficiency. And the dangerous thing is, both people often believe that everything is still fine, because technically, the relationship is still functioning. But functioning and feeling connected are not always the same thing. And I think many couples quietly reach a point where the deeper fear is no longer conflict. The deeper fear becomes, what if we no longer know how to reconnect? And honestly, I think this happens more often than people admit, because modern life is loud. It's fast, distracted, and tiring. And after a while, couples can unintentionally begin giving their best of their emotional energy to everything but each other. Because work gets attention, phones, deadlines, and children get their share. And eventually, the relationship survives mostly on leftover energy. And this is what it quietly costs. One person slowly stops bringing things up because they no longer feel fully heard. The other person assumes everything is okay because nobody is complaining. And over time, conversations become shorter, the tenderness becomes less intentional, and slowly, two people who once felt deeply known by each other begin living like exhausted teammates rather than intimate spouses. Now, there's a moment in the Gospels where Christ washes the feet of his disciples. The disciples had gathered for the meal, and before anyone asked for it, Christ quietly knelt and began washing their feet. And what always strikes me about that moment is this: nobody asked him to do it. He simply chose to move toward them in love. And every time I reflect on that passage, I'm reminded that love is not sustained only through emotion. Love is sustained through continued offering, through attentiveness, presence, and through choosing each other again and again, even after the familiarity has settled in. And perhaps that's where marriage can become one of the deepest places of growth in a person's life. Because over time, it reveals everything about you: your selfishness, your wounds, your impatience, your need to feel understood, your difficulty with vulnerability. Eventually, you realize that love is not simply something you feel, it's also something you continuously choose. Especially on ordinary days when life becomes repetitive, especially when the emotional excitement fades and real commitment begins, asking something deeper of you. So, what do we do with this? Well, here are 3 small things you can try. First, the next time your spouse brings up something small, resist the urge to half listen whilst doing something else. Put the phone down, pause the distraction, and fully enter that moment, even only if it's for a few minutes. Because often emotional distance does not begin through one major wound. It begins through small repeated moments of emotional absence. Second, after a while, many couples become so busy managing life together that they slowly stop sharing themselves with each other. Not schedules, bills, and tasks, but the deeper things like your fears, disappointments, the thoughts they've been quietly carrying internally. Try speaking honestly about something deeper other than logistics. Because many couples continue to talk every day while slowly stopping communicating emotionally. And third, remember that your spouse is simply not someone helping you manage life. They are someone you once chose deliberately, someone entrusted to your care, someone who still longs to be seen, heard, and known. And sometimes love grows stronger not through grand gestures, but through small moments of renewed attentiveness. Now, coming back to Daniel and Rebecca, they haven't solved everything overnight. Life is still busy and the children still need their attention. Work is still demanding, but recently they've become more intentional about bringing themselves back into the relationship. They are listening to each other more carefully and have begun speaking more honestly. They are setting aside distractions and creating a safe space for each other to be seen, heard, and known. And slowly, something has begun to soften between them again. Not perfectly or dramatically, but meaningfully. You see, couples do not stop loving each other. They simply stop choosing each other with the same intentionality they once did. And the ask is not to wait until the relationship feels broken before paying attention again. Perhaps the invitation is simply to begin returning to each other while there is still a small distance enough to cross. Take that thought with you this week. And if you know a couple who may be quietly drifting beneath the surface of ordinary life, perhaps this reflection is worth sharing with them. And before I close, I just wanted to share with you something. Now, since the start of this year, alongside these reflections and videos, I've also been working on my first book. It's called Scams Unmasked, Inside Modern Fraud, Stories of Trust, Loss, and Control. Now, this book is a story-driven exploration of modern fraud told through different fictionalized characters and situations. In many ways, it carries the same heart behind this channel, which is simply trying to understand people a little more deeply. The book is available on Amazon, and I'll leave a link in the description below if you'd like to check that out. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, cheers and God bless.